Today, we become legends.
Hey, my name's Inter, welcome back to the channel, and today we've got a first look at the newest god coming to Smite, Kujira. This is one of the gods that was not in the teaser trailer that we got at the start of the year, so we didn't necessarily know what we were going to be getting here. You know, it could have been absolutely anyone, we had no clue. And it turns out it's a giant whale. Kujira, a joke courtesy of Genetics on Twitter. It looks like a really fun and interesting design. We don't get a lot of non-humanoid gods, even though there are a lot that exist, and so it's cool to see another one. And basically, he's going to be a Japanese Guardian solo laner, which is interesting. So one of those bruiser Guardians that is intended to be viable in solo. Perhaps he'll be viable in support as well. We'll get into this post right now. So the tale of Kujira is one of sorrow and revenge. Also, if I'm pronouncing things wrong, I apologize. In ancient Japan, hunting whales was seen as an auspicious and prosperous event. A single whale could provide food and resources for an entire village, a veritable sea bounty. They are quite large, and hopefully it'll be quite large in game. Maybe get some larger model Guardians. They're always cool to see, like Cthulhu and Yorm and stuff. That being said, hunting is not without consequences. With each whale killed, anger churned in the waters as the spirits of the fallen cried out for their brethren. Kujira is the manifestation of that despair, the reckoning that humans must face for the pain they have caused to the sea life. That's a pretty interesting backstory. I like that. You know, basically tying in, real world extinction events and endangered species and stuff like that, but in a sort of lore way with there being an actual god that sort of brings the reckoning, I suppose. So our vision, we are always on the lookout for interesting and unique deities. When the idea of doing Kujira, a ghost whale from Japanese mythology, was floated, see what I did there, whoever wrote this, congratulations, great joke. We couldn't resist. A whale in the MOBA could be a crazy idea, but just the right amount of crazy to get us excited. What would a whale do, and what would a ghost whale do? Probably nothing particularly flashy or over the top, but controlling space and bringing a slow, steady, inevitable death to his enemies fits perfectly. Add in the curse motif from his lore, and we knew that Kujira would be an excellent solo lane focused guardian. So that's interesting, bringing a slow, steady, inevitable death. You know, maybe he's this big dude that doesn't really move around a whole lot, but perhaps has good range, or like slow animations that if they don't get interrupted, they do a lot, you know, like big CC, big damage, whatever. So some core themes, the vision of despair. We wanted Kujira to feel inevitable, draining his enemies of their will to fight. Oh, this reminds me of maybe some kind of passive that just like slowly drains enemies from, like life from enemies that are around him, maybe. His enemies might not even realize why they lost the fight so badly, but chances are Kujira's presence made the fight much harder than his enemies realized. And maybe debuffs as well, maybe just like people that are around him in general just get a bunch of debuffs. Visuals, whale mode. Being able to put a fantastical whale creature like Kujira into our game was super exciting. We wanted to make sure that he was represented as an aquatic creature, well, but still felt ominous like a looming terror. Getting the right feeling and his floaty movement was also a big focus for the animation team. We can't wait for you to experience it. Oh, so he's just gonna like float around. Obviously he's not going to be in water, or maybe he will. I don't know, maybe it'll be a bit like Charon where they'll use some of that like water texture following him around, or maybe he'll just be floating in like the air above the battleground. I have no idea really. Personality, you reap what you sow. Kujira is the bringer of plagues and destruction, but it is not out of malice or anger. He wishes that there was no need to deliver this justice upon those who have wronged the ocean, but he is firmly grounded in reality. There are those deserving of punishment, and he will deliver their punishment without mercy or hesitation. So some more cool lore stuff there. Perspective, grave omen. To see Kujira is to drown in hopelessness and despair. Where he goes, bad things will follow. Some mortals worship the drowned whale in feeble attempts of appeasement, others seek the aid of the gods to break his curse. So moving on to the artistic process. Kujira didn't have a lot of the usual questions that we have to answer for the artistic portrayal of a deity. He wouldn't need any clothing, he wouldn't wield any weapons. We really only had to make sure that we nailed it on the theme of skeleton whale. Oh, skeletal, interesting. So a bunch of different designs here, A through I. All with like varying amounts of skeletalness. Also, some are like quite bulky. My Discord, by the way, not yours. So some are quite bulky. Some are like more slim. Some have more bones showing. Some don't. This one, F, is basically a straight up. Looks like it's been struck by lightning in an old cartoon or something. Where like, do you see the bones? That's what that looks like. E looks incredible to me though. E is by far the best design here, in my opinion. Say what you will, but you have to admit those are some impressive ghostly skeletal whales. I agree. The biggest focus of the team was making sure that we captured some of the fantasy of Kujira, but that anyone could tell at a glance that he is a whale. I mean, yeah, that's not going to be anything but a whale, right? While these are all awesome, the team felt like A merged the best clarity of the whale shape and the fantastical ghost whale motif. So they're going to go with A. A is pretty cool too. A is like... I would say E and maybe B, maybe D as well. I like these kind of like spiky heads that they've got going on some of these. They look really cool. So they went more so with A, and they've got like some top-down, bottom views, just general like what they're going to be going for here. Since we normally have to discuss about clothing and weaponry, I'm going to break some rules. We typically show off the main card art, but the illustration team cooked up one of my favorite card arts we've ever done. Here are some concepts for Kujira's mastery skins. So a bunch of different concepts here of like what the card art's going to look like for some of his mastery skins, looking really cool. This is obviously a very unique god in terms of visuals, not going to be like anything we've had before. Like 85-90% of the gods in Smite are humanoid, and obviously this guy is not, so it should be very interesting to see how he looks in game and his animations and stuff like that. All great ideas, but the illustration team took F and turned it into a masterpiece. Oh man, that looks good. Obviously, card art always outclasses the actual skin in game due to like engine restrictions, and just generally like sometimes they look a bit like Play-Doh, whereas on a card art you can really make it pop with like the colors and stuff like that. But this does look incredible. This is a really nice piece of art, dude. Like, this is something I'd have as a desktop background. All of Kujira's card art turned out incredible, but this is my personal favorite. Yeah, that looks great. So moving on to gameplay though, which is what we all came here to see. It's cool to look at like the artistic process and all that kind of stuff and how he's going to look in game, but I'm mostly here for the gameplay. We knew we wanted Kujira to be a solo lane focused guardian. That requires a few things, like the ability to clear the wave, yep, definitely in this meta, right? And the ability to trade effectively. I think when most people think of solo lane guardians, they think of god like Cthulhu and Sobek, and Cerberus as well, in my opinion. Great team fighters that can lane effectively, but they aren't looking to gain a significant advantage in the laning phase. Generally, that is true. Guardians historically get out pressured by warriors. I mean, when Kujira releases, unless he's broken, he's just going to get out pressured by mages right now, but we're not trying to make another video on the mage solo meta and me ranting about it, boys. I will put that to the side for now and we'll talk about Baki. But solo lane guardians don't need to have an average laning phase. Jormungandr has one of the strongest laning phases in Smite. Yeah, excellent point. Yorm's laning phase is close to unbeatable. You can't really win lane against Yorm. You can lose lane against him. You can't really win lane against him. You could just go even. Pulling heavily from his lore, the design team really loved the idea of Kujira being this inevitable force to fight. He shouldn't necessarily hit an enemy with a lot of burst damage, but instead have good tools to stick to enemies and steadily knock them down. We felt like we really found his identity when we went back to his lore again and doubled down on the idea of him cursing enemies around him, making them less effective in the fight. So yeah, this sounds like what was mentioned further up in the post. It seems like just being near Kujira probably gives you some kind of debuff or like damage over time or something like that. There's a lot written about his gameplay, and still we haven't even touched on the most unique aspect of his kit. His gameplay loop is all about applying your curse to as many enemies as possible, as often as possible. Oh yeah, and using his one-of-a-kind basic attacks. Interesting. I wonder if they'll be like AoE. They're saying he wants to be sort of a lane dominator. It would make sense to give him some AoE basics, especially considering how large he is. We decided that a Ghost Whale solo guardian wasn't crazy enough, so we made a basic attack focused Ghost Whale solo guardian. Oh my god. I mean, the magical auto attack items, he could build rings, dude. It could be hilarious. I'm excited for this. So, some unique gameplay features. A brand new type of basic attack, as mentioned, that is the primary source of his damage even into the late game. That is interesting. No Guardian is like this. You know, Sylvanas has those autos that, like, really help him a lot with lane pressure in terms of the support role, and I guess if you want to play him in solo as well, you can do that. But it's not like his main source of doing stuff in the late game by any means. In the late game, you don't really want to be basic attacking that much. You just want to be getting your abilities out, get your CC on and stuff like that. Kujira converts multiple types of stats to help augment his basic attacks. Okay, so maybe if you're buying power or if you're buying cooldown might make more sense. You know, if he's going to have a lot of passive, like, just cursing enemies around him, maybe his cooldown is converted to attack speed or something like that. Some way to augment his basic attacks. So it seems like maybe a lot of the standard items that you might want to build will be a bit of a conversion, similar to Cuchulainn and Arthur and gods like that. An ability that has its cooldown reduced when you basic attack enemies. This might lead even more into that cooldown reduction aspect. You know, maybe you don't even want cooldown reduction because you're just going to be reducing your cooldowns by basic attacking people. A debuff on his ultimate that we've only ever used once before. Okay, way too much to speculate on there. I don't think I would be able to. I have to go through the god list and have a look at that, to be honest. A flavorful and powerful disruption to a player's senses. Okay, maybe it's Insanity from Cthulhu, debuff on his ultimate that's only been used once. I'm pretty sure Cthulhu is the only one that has like that specific like insanity debuff, and that would be a powerful disruption to a player's senses. So maybe it's like an amped up version of that or something. You start like seeing big like hallucinations and stuff like that. Would kind of add to that sense of dread, I suppose, that they're trying to go for with this god. Kujira, maybe our final god of year 10 Smite, but he's certainly going to make a splash. Of course there's going to be these kind of jokes in the closer look post, man. There always is. But this looks really cool, dude. Card art looks incredible. I like the idea of him being a solo guardian. Gives me something to play in solo lane that's not a mage right now, which is lovely, because warriors are pretty much unviable. But the fact that he's an auto attacker as well is really weird. And it seems like he's going to be revolving almost entirely around his auto attacks, so I'm guessing they're probably AoE of some kind, and like they're going to interact with his abilities, like mentioned down here. Help augment his basic attacks with other stats, and then an ability that reduces in cooldown when you land basic attacks. Going to be a very interesting playstyle. Sounds like he's going to be sort of low mobility, you know, just very hard to kill, but just constantly being there, like throwing basic attacks at you and throwing these curses and debuffs and stuff like that. Sounds like it's going to be a very interesting playstyle. It could either be really, really boring or like the most fun thing ever, I feel. You know, if he is just completely unkillable and just sits there kind of doing nothing, just applying passive debuffs to people, it could be boring, but depending on how they do it, especially if these basic attacks are really cool, like that's probably going to be pivotal to the character, honestly. The basic attacks will have to be very interesting if it's going to be like his primary source of damage and reducing his cooldowns and stuff like that. But yeah, this looks really cool. Just thought I'd bring you guys a video on the closer look post because it looks like a very interesting god. Let me know your thoughts down below, and of course tune in tomorrow. I'll be having a video out covering back at Kujira and his full kit when he gets released on the patch notes, as well as all the balance changes and stuff like that, so be sure to check back on my channel tomorrow. I'll have those videos out for you as soon as I can. And yeah, I will catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.